3rd, 1935, he finally managed to make her his bride. Off to the city, the law in Delancey, our Southern Belle's life was growing quite fancy. And then the next chapter did truly begin with that blue-eyed marvel that they called Lynn. On Snowden Lane in Kenwood, they made their next home. No car, but great neighbors with whom they could roam. Judith Rutledge arrived on the scene not much later, her brown eyes adding luster to those of her pater. It's one of those bad rhymes. You get the drift. The Stradleys, it seemed, were a neighborhood force. The parties they had were really quite choice. But Pearl Harbor changed the world as they knew it. Night watches, young soldiers, and rationing tickets. With Bill gone to war and Daddy too old, the family added Leighton to the fold. A beautiful baby, a princely young boy. Leighton surely added a wonderful joy. The war was still raging, victory not ours. Older men were now needed to fill out the corps. So Daddy left home, first to Fort Schuyler, then he was gone. Our Catherine was heartsick, but vowed to keep on. The stories of Kenwood, spring cleaning and such, headstands by Judy, there she is over there getting her champagne. Friends meant so much. As Sumter had nourished, so Kenwood did too. But there were those light bulbs. Only one knew.
Leighton.
Where were those light bulbs? Leighton had a, tell about Leighton and the light bulbs, Mother.
Well, when he was tiny, he was about 3 years old, and he was deaf. He didn't say a word. He never said one word until he was 6 years old. And we assumed deafness because he didn't talk. But he was everywhere, and he knew everything that was going on. He didn't miss anything. So he knew he wasn't stupid.
Nice thing.
But it was very touch and go with a kid like that.
And they didn't have the technology then to test.
Yeah.
No, they didn't have the things to test with. No. But it was he was just a very interesting little boy. And when he went to school, the teachers were fascinated with him because he knew where everything was in the whole school building. And if he liked it, he would unscrew it and put it in his pocket. And one day, the whole place went. And the principal of the school was smart, Miss Ballinger. And she said, Valentine, that's right. She said, go into the kindergarten. There's a little boy named Leighton. Look in his pocket. So they went into the kindergarten. It said, Leighton. So Leighton came over. Said, what do you have in your pockets? And he had whatever it was.
Yeah, all the electrical works in the school.
He had all kinds of stuff. So they were back in business again.
But he also went around the neighborhood and pilfered.
And this was during the war when you couldn't get light bulbs.
People's light bulbs.
And this lady.
And hid them. Never did he see
man
them.
across the street. He liked to sit in the evening. He had a wonderful chair that he sat in on this little porch. And he had a light back of it. And he had just gotten a new light that worked
Yellow.
For bugs.
The yellow light bulb.
whatever it was something special. And he had just put it in there, and he couldn't wait to get dark so he could try it out. And he sat down and he got his paper and he he's gone. And he was absolutely purple with rage. And he came over to me across the street. He said, where is your son? He knew where this light bulb was. So all of the light bulbs were under a bush out back.
We didn't know
Under their
Found the
forsythia.
light bulb.
But they didn't know that.
They're a little hoard.
Now, Catherine was thrifty. Her mom taught her to save. By the end of the war, a new place they did crave. House hunting back then, you needed to ferret a place that just might have enough merit. "You didn't buy that place," her friends would all cry. "You just bought a shell," the neighbors reply. Off to the country they went with great fear. For Catherine and Lynn there were terrible tears.
Lynn nearly died because she had to leave a good walking neighborhood and go out into the country where she didn't have a car, she couldn't drive, and she was...
But I had Darian Lewin.
We're getting to that.
Very fluid, that's right.
Painted a receding color, that awful, way too large triple gable. "Tear it off," ordered Gus and Vita, and thus began the rehab fable. And I recognize that it's not a fable, but it's the only word I could come up with. Alas,
You don't have to apologize for your words.
Yeah,
Read with confidence, no excuses.
the top of the house, it was a wonderful, basic, wonderful house with steep walls and windowsills and all. But the top had a gable like that and a double gable that were just terrible. And so that's what Gus and Vita Van Lennep, who had developed a wonderful place out on the eastern shore, they said, "Catherine, you'll have to get rid of those gables." And we said, "Well, we just paint them a receding." But they said, "You've got to get rid of them before you can move in." Because and so sure enough, we took them off and it rained and we were soaked down to the first floor. The walls were wet down to the first floor. But I felt them when I came in one morning, and you could lift it up.
all the wallpaper.
I took all the wallpaper off in the whole house in about an hour. They were all damp.
You know that's a big deal.
All of them up.
That's perfect, well, how lucky.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And then they dried out. And then they dried out.
And then they dried out.
Theoretically.